You felt it once, not in words, not even in thought, but in a moment you didn't understand, a gaze that lingered too long, not with affection, but with a hunger you couldn't name. She smiled, but it wasn't sweetness. It was calculation dressed in silk. You laughed, but you weren't amused. You were testing your own nerves. You remember her standing still, and yet you were the one who trembled. It was never about love, not really. It was about something older, something beastly. She wanted to know if she touched the surface of your calm. Would you flinch? If she tore open your elegance, would she find muscle or mush? You wanted her heart, she wanted your edge. You offered safety, she inhaled the scent of danger and found nothing. That was when she turned away. And you still don't know why. But I do. I always did. Because I am the voice you buried when you tried to become good. I am the instinct you numbed for the sake of peace. And now I return. Because she only desires what you've silenced. You try to speak to her, but your words taste like sand. You think your softness will soothe her. You think reason will earn you mercy. But she is not listening to your phrases. She is listening to your blood, to the rhythm beneath the smile. She walks closer, and before your mind can invent charm, her body has already dismissed you. You are not a threat, and she has no desire for something that cannot pierce her. She does not crave safety. She craves scent, and you do not bleed it. The scent of risk, of the unbreakable edge, of a man who does not flinch when stripped of certainty. You mask your weakness with affection, but she peels it away like dead skin. Her gaze wanders not to your lips, but to your spine. She hunts for the beast not to destroy it, but to confirm it lives. You mistake her silence for approval. You believe your gentleness makes you worthy, but she is watching you the way a lion watches a domesticated thing with curiosity and pity. You reach out with your feelings, hoping to be cherished. But feelings are not power. Sentiment is not hunger. You've forgotten what she remembers in her marrow, that life does not protect the fragile. It devours them. And when she presses against you, she is not searching for love. She is sniffing for resistance, for the tension of a man who has stood at the edge of himself and returned with teeth. She desires neither cruelty nor comfort. She desires the one who can refuse her without fear. You, trembling in the name of love, are already forgotten. You think sacrifice makes you noble, but sacrifice without spine is decay. She tests you in riddles, not to trap you, but to see if you possess the cruelty to not answer. She throws chaos at your feet to see if you bow, if you apologize, if you flinch. And if you do, if you yield before her storm, she knows. You are not the altar, you are the offering. She will take your warmth, your willingness, your worship, but she will never desire you, not truly, because you gave her everything without making her earn anything, and nothing repulses her more than the man who kneels too soon. You decorate yourself with patience, with compromise, with understanding. But these are not virtues to her. They are symptoms of a disease, the disease of fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of being alone. She smells that fear. It clings to your breath. It trembles behind your words. And she feeds on it not because she is cruel, but because she is primal. She must test the metal before she rests upon it. You fail not because you are weak, but because you hide it. Because you wrap it in silk and hope she mistakes it for strength. But she never does. She remembers something you've tried to erase, that power is erotic, that control is felt, not spoken, that a man who does not flinch in the face of fire ignites her. She watches how you handle tension, how you respond when she retreats, when she wounds, when she withdraws affection. Do you chase? Do you plead? Do you fracture? That is the test, and most of you fail it. You mistake her withdrawal as a puzzle to solve. You flood her with attention. You confess your wounds, believing honesty will soften her, but it does not. She is not looking for your transparency. She is looking for your threshold, and she watches how fast you shatter. You try to be the man who understands her, but she does not want to be understood. She wants to be overwhelmed. You try to be the one who supports her, but support without gravity is scaffolding, useful, forgettable. She touches your hand, and you melt. She raises her voice, and you fold. She tests your edges, and finds none. And then she vanishes. And you mourn her loss, like a tragedy. But the tragedy was not her absence. It was your absence from yourself. You became what you thought she needed, instead of what she feared she could not control. You think desire is born from your goodness, but goodness without danger is invisible. You dress in politeness. You speak with careful words. You offer your heart like a gift, but she is not looking for a gift. She is looking for a flame. You could have roared. You could have stood silent in your own shadow, but you chose approval, and she smelled it. It reeked, like wilted roses, like dreams deferred, like a man who speaks of strength but has never bled for it. You forgot that masculinity is not posture, it is pressure. The pressure of not breaking when she pushes, of not chasing when she vanishes, of not collapsing when she grows cold. Because if you collapse, she knows you were never a mountain, you were a mirage. She laughs at your flattery. She forgets your kindness, but she remembers the man who could not be shaken, the one who met her chaos with calm, who did not answer every question, who did not justify his existence, who remained unmoved while she searched for his edge. You were taught to avoid being dangerous, but what she truly fears is the man who has made peace with his danger not to harm her, but to never be owned by her. The one who smiles not to please, but because he already knows. The one who sees through her games and still plays his own. And still, you try to be chosen. You wait, you ache, you beg, silently. But desire does not live in the man who waits. It lives in the man who walks away without blinking, who hears her silence and does not tremble, who feels her coldness and does not melt. She does not want the man who suffers for her. She wants the man who survives her. And you have mistaken sacrifice for strength. But strength is not in how much you bleed for her. It is in how little you need to. You wear your wounds like proof of love. But wounds do not arouse her. Only fire does. The fire of a man who could burn but doesn't. The restraint that isn't weakness but will. The power that is not shouted, but felt in the silence between words. And when she feels that, when she smells that, she follows. Not because you asked, not because you deserved, but because you did not flinch. You passed the test, you did not perform, you stood still, you did not offer, you waited to be seen. And in that stillness, she saw you. Not the man you pretended to be, but the one you buried. And now you ask, can you become him? You do not become him. You remember him, the boy who stared down shadows, the man who did not apologize for his hunger, the creature who did not need permission to breathe fire. He is still there, beneath the layers of compromise, beneath the fear, beneath the shame. He is not gone. He is waiting, and she is hunting for him. You call it love, but she knows it as reflection. You bend toward her not from affection, but from absence. You do not hold your ground. You hold your breath. You contort yourself into whatever shape will not provoke abandonment, and she sees it not as devotion, but as dread. She tests the waters of your soul with a single glance, and you ripple. She does not have to command. You anticipate. You adjust. You offer before she even hungers, and that, to her, is the confirmation you are not a man. You are a mirror with no depth, no refusal, no heat of its own. You reflect her desires, but you do not anchor them. You reflect her power, but you do not rival it. She becomes the sun, and you orbit, smaller with each circle. She does not want a servant, she wants a sovereign. But you gave away your crown the moment you asked what she needed, instead of asking what you were. You believe compromise is virtue, but she sees only vacancy. You fill the silence with gestures, with gifts, with softness. But silence is where she listens for your depth, and all she hears is echo. You think adapting will make her stay, but she does not stay with the man who bends. She stays with the one who forces her to rise. You were not meant to mirror her. You were meant to oppose her, not with cruelty, with presence, with refusal, with the gravity that reshapes everything it touches, not the fluid that takes the shape of every vessel. She pulls away and you pursue. She hesitates and you reassure. She tests you, and you pass not by holding firm, but by folding quickly. And yet, in your success, you fail, because each time you bend, her respect contracts. You confuse her arousal with approval, but she arouses what she wants to test, not what she wants to keep. The man who flinches when she frowns, the man who shifts tone when she turns cold, that man is not desired. He is managed. She sees how your voice softens when she disapproves, how your stance narrows when she doubts. She learns your levers, she maps your reactions, and then she stops seeing you as a man. You are now a system, predictable, programmable, reversible. You call it connection, but it is choreography. She moves, and you follow. She withdraws, and you compensate. You think love is being needed, but she does not need you. She wants to be moved, and you cannot move her because you are too busy not disturbing her. You walk carefully around her moods, her signals, her silences, thinking you are being sensitive. But sensitivity without sovereignty is submission, and she does not kneel before what kneels first. You've become pleasant, and pleasant is the graveyard of passion. She does not desire peace. She desires presence, the kind that does not vanish when challenged. You believe harmony is love, but harmony born from fear is not harmony. It is erasure, and every time you silence your truth for her approval, you vanish a little more. She senses it. Each time you hesitate to disagree, each time you pretend not to notice the manipulation, each time you choose the path of least resistance. And while you think you are winning her favor, she is tallying your erosion. You thought love meant softness, but love without tension is sleep. And she did not come to you to sleep. She came to awaken or be awakened, and you lulled her into boredom. She wanted a mirror that cracked when struck, not shattered. But you fell into pieces, and in those pieces, she saw 1,000 versions of herself, none of which challenged her. She became the storm, and you became the floodplain, absorbing, numbing, flattening. She wanted the cliff, the edge that refused to erode no matter how many waves crashed against it. But you reshaped yourself every time she blinked. Every time she sighed. You moved with her instead of standing against the wind, and what could she do with that worship it know? She placed it gently aside, as one does a soft object with no weight. You think rejection is cruelty, but indifference is colder, and she became indifferent the moment she realized you would never say no. That your yes meant nothing because it was never tested. That your patience was not strength, but strategy. That your compassion was not courage, but currency. She saw you change and change again. She saw you dim your light, not because it burned too bright, but because you hoped it would comfort her shadows. And shadows do not fall in love with dimness. They fall in love with contrast, with the man who stays lit even when they withdraw. You flattered her beauty, but she did not want flattery. She wanted to be seen completely, not adored, measured, not praised, met. She wanted to feel the friction of a man who does not dissolve under her gaze. She wanted to know her power had limits, and that your soul was not a sponge, but a stone. But you handed her your soul with no ceremony, no conditions, no risk, and she took it, not as a prize, but as proof that you did not value it. Because you did not guard it, because you did not make her climb. She never had to reach. You lowered yourself to make her taller, and now, neither of you respects the view. She was waiting for the moment you would not yield, the moment you would walk away rather than be misseen. But you stayed, and each time you stayed, she learned something darker, that you needed her more than yourself, that you were willing to betray your depth just to remain close, that your love was not noble, it was negotiation. She did not need more affection. She needed a wall to crash against. She needed the friction that makes fire, not the warmth that makes fog. But you gave her mist, and then wondered why she wandered. You think pain will win her sympathy, that your devotion will earn her loyalty, but she is not moved by your ache. She watches how you carry it. If it bends you, she cannot follow. If it births silence, stillness, space, she listens. She comes closer when you do not beckon. She softens when you do not explain. She opens when you stop persuading. She wanted to know who you are when you are no longer trying to be loved, and you never showed her. You were always selling, always adjusting, always reaching. You wore her mood like a cloak. You mirrored her pain like a pond. You absorbed her darkness, hoping to prove your strength. But strength is not in how much you can hold. It is in how much you refuse to carry for her. And she needed that refusal not as rejection, but as recognition that she is not above you, that you do not worship her, that you meet her as equal flame, as sovereign storm, as the one thing in her life that will not reshape itself to win her grace. But now you've forgotten how to stop bending. You are shape without center. You are kindness without edge. And she is already gone, not physically, but energetically. She walks beside you, but there is no longer heat in her eyes, no chaos in her kiss, because there is no mountain in your soul, only mirror, only echo, only the long, quiet erosion of a man who feared being alone more than he feared being invisible. You have been tested, and you have been found soft. You thought presence meant being available, but presence means being immovable. She never wanted your compliance. She wanted your refusal not as rebellion, but as reality. A man who cannot be shaken is not empty. He is full of himself, full of the flame he has tamed but never extinguished. She approaches again, the same woman, the same scent, the same ache, but this time something has shifted. You do not lean forward. You do not reach. You do not shape yourself around her presence. You stay still, and in your stillness, she feels something ancient stir, not dominance, not control, gravity. She circles now, not because you pursue, but because you do not. You have become a throne, and a throne does not move. It is not hurried. It is not desperate. It does not chase the one who walks past because it knows its place, its weight, its pull. She feels it in your silence, in your restraint, in the way you look at her and do not flinch, in the way your gaze remains not hungry, not hollow, but whole. You no longer offer yourself like a gift. You let her wonder if she's earned the right to unwrap you, and that, finally, calls to her hunger. It is not cruelty, it is clarity. You do not speak to impress. You speak when you must. You do not explain your coldness, nor do you defend your warmth. You are not proving, you are not persuading, you are simply there, like a storm that has passed through fire and emerged quieter, denser, more dangerous. She senses it, the power that does not tremble, the man who does not shift when she tests, who does not bend when she withholds, the unmoved one, and something in her, that old, ritual ache, begins to soften. You do not touch her first, you do not rush to fill silence. You let silence do its work, because you no longer fear what it will reveal. You have nothing left to hide. You have seen yourself, not the mask, not the strategy, but the self who does not apologize. The one who can hold tension like a blade without bleeding. The one who can look at her beauty and not collapse. The one who can want without begging. Who can leave without threat. Who can stay without submission. That is the throne, and you sit upon it now. And now she moves. Not because you asked, but because she must. Because you have become the center of gravity. And she is tired of floating. She has been adored, worshipped, chased, but this is different. You are not here to catch her. You are here to be unmoved. And she wants to crash, not into pillows, but into stone. She tests you again, lightly, a look, a sigh, a pause too long. She wants to know if it was a performance, but you do not answer. You breathe, you exist, and your existence is louder than your voice ever was. She speaks of other men, half jokes, vague mentions. You do not react. She watches. She wants to see you flinch, but you remain, not indifferent, untouched. She asks questions that bend sideways. You answer what is true, not what is clever. She withdraws affection. You do not chase, because you are no longer waiting for her to complete you. You are complete, and that is unbearable to the part of her that needed to feel larger, and irresistible to the part that aches to be matched. And now she opens, not because you unlocked her, but because you refused to pick the lock. You stood at the door, silent, sovereign, and she opened. Because there is no thrill in conquest when the prize is already kneeling. But there is sacred terror in the man who does not yield to praise or punishment. You are no longer bending. You are building an altar not for her but for yourself. And she is drawn to it, not as queen, but as witness, because you no longer offer worship. You offer reality, and reality real, raw, immovable reality is the most terrifying and holy thing a woman can encounter. She tries once more to test your balance, a comment designed to tilt you, and it lands, but you do not fall. You smile, slightly, not mockery, recognition. You see the game, you've played it, and now you are no longer in it. You are watching, choosing. She sees it too, the way you absorb without dissolving, the way you witness without surrendering. You are not reactive. You are responseless, not because you don't care, but because you care correctly. You know what is yours, and you do not grasp for what wanders. And now she leans, not with her body, with her energy, with the part of her that wants to be overpowered, not by force, but by stillness. You are the unmoved one, and she senses the thrill of being close to something that cannot be shaken. Your silence speaks louder than every word you ever tried to impress her with. Your gaze weighs more than your confessions. Your indifference is not coldness, it is selfhood, and it wraps around her like heat, like shadow, like home. She tests again, the final time, a sudden disappearance, a ritual withdrawal, the storm leaving without explanation, and you do not chase. You remain, because you know the throne never runs after the crown, and this This is the moment she feels what she never felt with the others. Loss. She feels your absence, not because you vanished, but because you did not follow. You stayed with yourself. And now, she must decide to return or to vanish. And either way, you win, because you did not lose yourself to keep her. She returns quietly. Without drama, she knows now, knows that she cannot move you. And in that knowing, she is finally free to choose you not as refuge, not as reflection, but as reality. Because you are not a mirror, you are a mountain. And mountains do not bend. They are climbed, they are feared, they are revered. And she, who once sought control, now seeks containment. Not to be dominated, but to be met. And you finally are capable of meeting her. Because now, you are not trying to be loved. You are being. You are not available. You are present. You are not generous. You are true. She sees it in your eyes, the fire you do not show, the edge you do not offer. She feels it when you touch her, not a caress, but a claim. Not ownership of her, but ownership of yourself. And that is the one thing she cannot resist. The man who belongs so fully to himself that she must rise to stand beside him. And so the test ends. Not because she stops testing, but because it no longer matters. You are not passing or failing. You are simply not playing. You are beyond her rituals, beyond her chaos, beyond her need for reassurance. You are not cruel. You are complete. And in your completeness, you have become the one thing her hunger could never consume, the unmoved throne. Somewhere, long before this life, you stood in a burning forest and did not run. That silence still lives inside you. She smells it. She circles it. She kneels beside the flame she could not put out. And in the dark, no music plays. Only breath, only heat, only the quiet certainty that if she leaves again, you will still be there, waiting for no one, worshipping nothing, unmoved